Chapter 25. The Healing Devil Shizuka Mieruko-chan. In a way, Shizuka Mieruko-chan wasn't wrong. Alright, as long as you understand what you're getting into. Seeing that she was aware of the consequences, Saeko Busujima didn't argue further. But, while their master was open to accepting new followers, it wasn't like he'd take just anyone, right? She wasn't sure if he'd even be interested in her Shizuka-sensei. Master, what do you think? Saeko sought his confirmation. Master, she adapted to her new identity fast. Lynn glanced at Saeko with satisfaction. Shizuka, too, understood who had the final say. She clung to his arm and swayed playfully. Please, take me in as your pet, Mr. Devil. It was the first time Lynn had received such a request, but there was no reason to refuse. His devil's peace ability flickered on his status panel, proving that Shizuka had the qualifications to become his servant. No problem. He agreed without hesitation. Yay! Overjoyed, Shizuka jumped up in excitement. Saeko let out a breath of relief and felt genuinely happy for her. Lynn summoned another piece, but before he could say a word, Shizuka released his arm and started unbuttoning her clothes one by one. Her smooth motions made Saeko's eye twitch. Why are you so skilled at this? Shizuka paused for a moment before responding. Didn't Saeko do the same thing? She looked to Lynn for confirmation. That's right. Keep going. Lynn nodded approvingly. Without hesitation, Shizuka removed her white blouse, leaving only her pink underwear. All right, turn around. Shizuka hesitated. Does it have to be on my back? You can choose, but the back is the most logical spot. I see. She seemed to ponder for a moment before patting the lower part of her smooth, soft stomach. Then please put it here. Lynn. Now, it was his turn to fall silent. Was this woman doing this on purpose, or just being clueless? He asked flatly, Are you shaved? Shizuka froze. Saeko covered her face in embarrassment. She reminded, Sensei, after becoming a servant, the engraved blessing data will be visible on your skin. It's best if there's no obstruction. And Saeko continued in a low voice. If you put it so low, are you planning to take off your underwear every time your blessing gets updated? This woman, was she really a natural airhead? Saeko started having doubts about her. Placing it on her, that part. Was she trying to seduce their master from the get-go? If she had known she could choose, she might have done the same. Saeko's face reddened as she silently grumbled. That's not what I meant. Shizuka quickly refuted, flustered. Then, after some hesitation, she asked, Then, can it be a little higher? That should be fine. Lynn wasn't completely sure. If her skill descriptions were too long, it might get covered up. But, if it did happen, he'd just make her remove everything blocking the text. He wouldn't mind helping her take care of that problem. He was a good master after all. All right then, let's do it. Shizuka puffed out her chest. Lynn pressed the devil's piece against her upper abdomen. So cold, she shivered, making Lynn feel a little dizzy from the motion. The piece sank into her body, and soon, she experienced what Saeko had felt earlier. Her breathing grew heavy, her warm breath carrying a faint orchid-like scent. Her body flushed with heat. Naya, just like Saeko, Shizuka didn't hold back. Two delicate black wings emerged from her lower back. A tail with a heart-shaped tip swayed gently as it extended. Shizuka brought her tail forward and curiously touched it. Her body shuddered, her face turning red as her thighs pressed together, rubbing slightly. But her hands didn't stop. In fact, she touched her tail even more. As someone who had already received that from Lynn, Saeko twitched at the sight. This airhead teacher had no sense of restraint. Sensei, just so you know, we're still standing right in front of you. Shizuka's body froze. She quickly let go of her tail and turned to Saeko with an innocent expression. What is it, Saeko-chan? Meanwhile, she secretly retracted her wings and tail. Seeing the evidence disappear, Saeko just rolled her eyes and sighed. Never mind. Phew. Shizuka let out a relieved sigh. Lynn, on the other hand, wasn't paying attention to their antics. His focus was on Shizuka's blessing data. Race, devil. Master, Lynn Valifer. Stats, strength, I0. Agility, I0. Endurance, I0. Magic, I0. Unique skills, Healing Devil. Healing Devil. Bodily fluids restoration. Blood and other fluids can heal wounds, restore stamina, etc. Status recovery. Able to heal abnormal conditions. Accelerated stamina growth. Devil transformation, Milk Mode. Lynn, good news. There was enough space to display her blessing data. There was even a bit of extra room. Bad news. The upper part was covered because of her big things. He couldn't see her name and level. But what really gave him mixed feelings was this healing devil skill. Milk Mode? It sounds weird. Still, it was clearly a healer-type, special devil, very fitting for Shizuka's role. Ding! Congratulations, you've acquired the skill, Healing Devil. Lynn, he wasn't exactly thrilled to have this skill. For Shizuka, it was milk, but for him, yikes, he wasn't even going to think about it. Lynn decided this skill was going straight to the corner to collect dust. After regaining his composure, he prepared to copy down Shizuka's blessing data. But then he paused. He muttered, "Lift up your chest. It's blocking your name and level." Shizuka took a moment to process that before going, "Oh, okay," and lifting it slightly. "All right." Lynn finished copying the data and handed it to her. Shizuka nodded as she read through it, muttering, "So Mr. Devil's name is Lynn, huh? Healing Devil? That's perfect for me." Seeing the name and effects of her skill, Shizuka's eyes sparkled with excitement. She loved healing people, but what's Milk Mode? She looked at Lynn with confusion. You'll find out later." Lynn wasn't sure if she was genuinely clueless or just pretending. This woman often did bizarre things under the guise of being an airhead, like picking that specific engraving spot. "Saeko-chan, do you know?" Shizuka turned to Saeko. "Nope, I don't want to even think of it." Saeko's answer was firm. "Oh, okay." Chapter 26. Establishing a Familia base. Recruiting 2 new members in one go, Lynn's strength had once again increased. He had a feeling that his next breakthrough wasn't far off. Devil's Contract was truly an amazing skill. Just one trip across worlds had already brought him 2 new subordinates, not to mention this training ground. A total win. As Shizuka Mieruko finished adjusting her clothes, Lynn briefly introduced the 2 women to the concept of his Familia. After a short explanation, Saeko nodded. "I see. So our Familia's main base is actually in another world?" She couldn't help but glance at Lynn. Her master was capable of crossing worlds, as expected of him. Another world? Shizuka blinked in surprise. "So curious." "Don't worry. I'll take you there when we get the chance." Hearing the answer she wanted, Shizuka nodded eagerly like an excited puppy, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "But before that, we need to take care of things in this world first." Saeko's expression turned serious. "Master, please give your orders." "No need to be so formal, Saeko." Lynn spoke in a relaxed tone before continuing. "I plan to turn this world into a permanent grinding spot for our Familia. What do you think?" Saeko paused for a moment, then carefully considered his words. "Given our world's current situation, that makes sense. The undead here weren't too strong, but they existed in overwhelming numbers. A perfect place for lower-ranked subordinates to farm experience." "Then it's decided." Lynn clapped his hands, setting the plan into motion. "First, we need to establish a safe base for our Familia. Not only will it serve as a residence for you and Shizuka, but also as a resting place for Familia members who come over. Since our numbers are still small, we don't need anything too large. As long as there are enough rooms, proper facilities, and a comfortable living environment, that should be enough." Saeko nodded and carefully memorized all of Lynn's requirements. She had already learned about the other Familia members from him before. 2 more girls. That put her at ease. After all, since they'd likely be living together, it was better if they were all female. 1 man was enough for Master. I've got an idea." Shizuka suddenly raised her hand. "Rika's house. It perfectly fits Master's requirements." Saeko frowned slightly. "Rika? Shizuka nodded enthusiastically. "She's a friend of mine, a police officer. Super strong. Lynn immediately made the call. All right, let's head there first. Shizuka, lead the way. Aye, sir. Lynn also remembered that place from the original story. A nice house, plus there were some firearms hidden there, if he recalled correctly. Though at this point, those guns probably wouldn't be of much use. After all, devils had their own ways of fighting. With a plan in place, the three of them prepared to leave Fujimi Academy and head to Rika Minami's home. Saeko planned to take out more zombies along the way, not only to train her stats, but also to test her current skills and strength. Of course, more importantly, she had a certain desire to satisfy. Rika's place is a bit far from here. How about we take a car? Shizuka suggested, suddenly pulling out a set of car keys from somewhere. Wait, weren't you just naked? Where are you keeping that? Saeko couldn't help but question. Hee. Before Saeko could say more, a noise echoed from the end of the hallway. Where did the stairs go? Sure, keep it down. Do you want to attract all those things? MMPH. Saeko thought one of the voices sounded familiar. Master. Lynn understood what she meant and reassured her. It's fine. Let's check it out since we're leaving anyway. At the destroyed stairwell, Saeko looked up and saw the people above. Rei Miyamoto, Saeko senpai. Both of them were stunned. They hadn't expected to run into each other under these circumstances. Lynn glanced up as well. As expected, they were characters from the original protagonist group. But some people were missing. If he remembered correctly, wasn't the main protagonist supposed to be here, along with that chubby guy? Had the timeline changed? Thinking for a moment, Lynn quickly realized what had happened. What had changed? He looked at the destroyed stairwell. Wasn't this the biggest alteration? A single lightning strike had wiped out the protagonist and a supporting character? Maybe not. Perhaps the loud explosion had attracted more undead than in the original timeline, causing them to get separated. Even if they were still alive, dealing with that many zombies wouldn't be easy. Not that it mattered. Lynn had no interest in other men. Pink and white. From his position, he had a clear view under the skirts of Rei Miyamoto and Saya Takagi. Ugh. Rei and Saya quickly realized what had happened. Noticing the boy, they hurriedly clamped their skirts shut. Saeko-senpai, what's going on? Rei asked in a hushed voice. She looked around at the completely wrecked surroundings, confusion evident in her eyes. The stairs were gone. How were they supposed to get down? Chapter 27. So humanity had evolved? 10 reviews bonus. Hey, after some talk, Rei Miyamoto leaped down from above, landing straight into Lynn's arms like a homing pigeon returning to its nest. Lynn felt the impact of the girl crashing into his chest. Thanks. Rei quickly stepped back, bowing deeply, but couldn't help sneaking a glance at Lynn's arms. Her ears turned slightly red. Such strength. He caught me so effortlessly, as if I weighed nothing. Next was Saya Takagi. She was a bit more timid, keeping her eyes tightly shut as she jumped, too scared to look. Only when her feet touched the ground did she finally relax. I'm alive. After discussing it together, they had decided jumping down was the best option. They thought they'd at least get a little hurt, but it turned out to be way easier than expected. It felt almost unreal. After thanking Lynn as well, the group was finally reunited. But one problem down, another still to go. Rei looked below. Zombies. So many zombies. Even though the staircase was gone, the zombies had unintentionally stacked themselves up, forming a hideous pyramid. If they didn't figure out a way to leave, these things would eventually climb up. What do we do? Rei instinctively turned to the only man present. While Rei and Saya found the sight of the undead terrifying, Lynn didn't even bother looking at them. Saeko, take care of it. Rei and Saya blinked in surprise. Saeko-senpai, how is she supposed to handle this? Yes, master. Master. Both girls' eyes widened at Saeko's response. Wait, was this some kind of role play? They exchanged glances, unable to stop their thoughts from running wild. What kind of relationship did this guy have with Saeko-senpai? Was he her boyfriend? Saeko licked her lips, her eyes shining with excitement. She had been itching for a fight ever since she saw the zombies. But she had been holding back, waiting for Lynn's command. Now, finally, the moment had come. Time to test the power her master had given her. Shing! Her blade slid out of its sheath. The golden hues of the setting sun reflected off the steel, giving it a dazzling glow. As she gripped the handle, an instinctive understanding filled her mind. With a swift motion, she slashed downward. Swoosh! A white arc of energy shot toward the undead. Splat! The stacked-up zombies were instantly severed. Blood gushed from their wounds. A closer look revealed that the cut was absurdly smooth, as if made by a veteran swordsman. Saeko exhaled, her breathing slightly heavier as she watched the blood splatter. But Lynn frowned slightly. Noticing this, Saeko immediately tensed up, carefully watching for his reaction. Next time, aim for the head. Otherwise, it's inefficient. Lynn advised. Zombies were annoying like that. If you didn't destroy their heads, they wouldn't die easily. Saeko's previous attack looked impressive, but since the heads hadn't been severed, most of the zombies were still moving. Understood, Master. Saeko let out a small sigh of relief. Thank goodness. He didn't dislike her. That brief moment of bloodshed had awakened her hunger, exposing a bit of her true nature. Lynn's frown had scared Hershey, thought he might have found her disgusting. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to calm down. This time, she swung her sword with precision, aiming exclusively for the zombies' heads. Meanwhile, watching Saeko's overwhelming display of power, Rei and Saya were completely dumbfounded. Sword wave? Saeko-senpai just unleashed a freaking sword wave? What kind of anime nonsense was this? They exchanged another glance, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Had humanity already evolved during this apocalypse? Wow, Saeko-chan, that was amazing. Shizuka looked happy. Wait, Sensei, you're not even surprised? That was sword animation skill. Something totally supernatural. Rei and Saya screamed internally. Their minds were overflowing with questions. They wanted to ask Saeko so badly. But, seeing her increasingly crazed smile, they swallowed their words. Too scary. 10 minutes later, Saeko finally stopped swinging, her breathing slightly ragged. Below, the area had turned into a gruesome slaughterhouse. How do you feel? Lynn asked. Subarashi. Saeko's voice was downright ecstatic. Lynn assessed her condition. 10 minutes of non-stop slashing, yet she was only a little out of breath. This suggested that energy-based attacks didn't drain her stamina too much. Though she probably hadn't noticed yet, she actually didn't need a sword at all. She could release slashes from her hands, feet, any part of her body, really. After all, she was a blade devil. But Lynn chose not to tell her just yet. Instead, he encouraged her. Good job. Saeko instantly snapped out of her bloodthirsty state. Master just praised her. Her eyes sparkled, and her thighs pressed together tightly. Something was coming out. Since there are no more zombies, let's move on. Lynn didn't head toward the now-destroyed staircase. The floor below was soaked with blood and corpses disgusting. Besides, the whole point of this had been to let Saeko gain experience. If they had wanted to leave earlier, they could have just jumped out the window. Crash! Lynn lightly tapped a third-floor window, shattering it instantly. He glanced at Rei and Saya, who were trembling, clinging to each other in fear after watching Saeko go berserk. Ignoring their emotions, he casually grabbed them both like kittens and stepped onto the window ledge. Wait. Realizing what was about to happen, they tried to protest. But before they could, Lynn leaped from the third floor. Mefawa! They wanted to scream, but they were afraid of attracting zombies, so they just clamped their hands over their mouths, silently crying in terror. Even after landing safely, their legs felt like jelly. All right, Shizuka and Saeko followed, effortlessly jumping down. For them now, lower-tier devils this height was nothing. Rei and Saya let out bitter laughs. Yeah, it was official. Humanity had evolved. But it seemed they had been left. Chapter 28. Multiversal Chat Group. Fujimi Academy. Lynn and his group strolled leisurely toward the parking lot. Any zombies they encountered on the way were swiftly beheaded by Saeko with a single stroke. None of them could get within 3 meters of Lynn. Rei and Saya follow behind them, shrinking their necks like frightened cats. Their eyes occasionally flicker between Saeko Busujima and Shizuka Mieruko-chan before ultimately landing on Lynn. It was obvious Saeko-senpai and Mieruko-sensei had already transcended normal human limits. In fact, Saeko-senpai was terrifyingly strong. And yet, both of them subtly deferred to that man. Who exactly was he? No one would tell them. Even now, they didn't even know his name. And they didn't dare ask. Parking lot. I found this. Shizuka waved at Lynn, standing beside a yellow-green school bus. They then decided to board the bus. The area was eerily silent, as Saeko had already taken care of the zombies around them. Shizuka sat in the driver's seat, staring at the controls, looking a little lost. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from outside. Quick, there's a bus here. Moments later, the bus suddenly dipped as someone climbed aboard. The first to step in was a man in a black pinstripe suit. It's him. Rei Miyamoto shot him a look of disgust before spotting Takashi Komuro behind him. Her eyes widened in shock. Takashi? He's actually with this disgusting man. So he wasn't any good either. Years ago, he used to chase after her constantly. Thankfully, she never gave him the time of day. She shot him a look of disdain before closing her eyes. Seeing Koichi Shido again filled her with anger, but she held her tongue. This bus already had an owner. Maybe, because of her connection with Saeko-senpai, she and Saya were allowed to board this safe vehicle. She had no intention of causing trouble and getting kicked off. Still, she worried had this disgusting man also evolved somehow. Koichi Shido scanned the bus. There were only a few students on board. The only adult was a female teacher. His confidence soared. Ahem. He cleared his throat, preparing to make some grand speech to seize control of the bus. Saeko. Lynn just said the name. In a flash, Saeko appeared in front of Shido. His pupils shrank in shock, but before he could utter a word, a sharp pain shot through his abdomen as he was sent flying out of the bus. Rei's eyes lit up with satisfaction, feeling a wave of relief. Shido is still just an ordinary human. That's good. Lynn's expression remained indifferent. He had noticed Shido's group a while ago. The lightning strike should have caused enough chaos to shift events from the original timeline. A horde of zombies several times larger than in the original story had swarmed Fujimi Academy. Yet somehow, Shido still survived. Truly, pests were hard to get rid of. But the moment he saw Takashi, he understood. So he's riding on the protagonist's luck. Shido groaned, clutching his stomach in pain as he glared at Saeko with a mix of fear and fury. He shouted angrily, I am a teacher at Fujimi Academy. Attacking a teacher like this is an insult to authority. Takashi frowned and stepped forward. Senpai, please apologize to Shido-sensei. He admired Shido's ability to unite people in this crisis. As long as they followed his lead, they could survive this apocalypse. If only the people on this bus handed over control, they too could join Shido's group and increase their chances of survival. But they just attacked Shido without reason. Takashi was furious, especially since, among the passengers, he spotted the girl he had always admired. What if Rei loses the chance to join the group because of this? He started to panic. Saeko glanced at him coldly before stepping past him and looming over Shido. Shing! The blade flashed. Shido froze, a cold sweat running down his forehead. I'm not killing you here because I don't want her blood dirtying the bus. Wait! Shido's eyes widened in terror. A thin red line appeared across his throat. Thud! His head hit the ground, eyes frozen in disbelief. The other survivors were stunned into silence. The blind admiration in their eyes turned to confusion and fear. Takashi stood frozen. Shido-sensei was dead. What have you done? He lunged forward, reaching to grab Saeko's collar. Before he could touch her, his arm was severed in one swift motion. Plop! Aha! Takashi screamed as his arm hit the floor. Did you think I wouldn't kill you? Saeko's icy voice sent a chill down his spine. She raised her blade again. Takashi, now drenched in cold sweat, turned to Rei in desperation. Rei! Saeko frowned and looked at her. You know him? Takashi's eyes lit up with hope. For old time's sake, because he had always liked her. Maybe she would say something to save him? Ray's brows furrowed in disgust. The way he called her name made her skin crawl. They were barely acquaintances, yet he acted like they were close. We were in the same class once. Not really familiar. Shing. Seiko's blade fell. Takashi was dead. Lynn raised an eyebrow in thought. So, in this world, Takashi and Ray's relationship was different? Seiko flicked the blood off her blade and swept a cold gaze over the remaining survivors. Anyone else want to step up? Silence. She sheathed her sword. The doors closed. The bus started moving. No one dared to make a scene again. Killing 2 people had sent a clear message. Seiko felt no discomfort from taking human lives. A blade must do its job. That was one of her creeds. She was now her master's sword, and it was her duty to cut down those who got in his way. Considering they only killed 2 and let the rest live, they had already been merciful. Meanwhile, Ray snuck a glance at Lynn. Shido's death had lifted a weight from her heart. She felt grateful to Seiko's senpai, but she knew Seiko only acted because of him. Her heart pounded as she gazed at Lynn's handsome face. He's a man worth relying on. Saya sat beside her, barely daring to breathe. Her usual arrogance was nowhere to be seen. Seiko patted her lap and smiled warmly at Lynn. Master, would you like a lap pillow? Her tenderness was a stark contrast to her earlier ruthlessness. Lynn didn't hesitate. He laid down, resting his head against the soft warmth. Seiko gently massaged his head with delicate fingers. Lynn enjoyed her service as he pulled out his phone. The different world's signals should have been useless. But thanks to his devil's contract ability, he could still connect to other world signals, effectively creating a cross-world chat group system, like a multiversal chat group. He made a mental note next time. He should bring more phones so he could add Seiko and the others. For now, he pinged Utaha Kasumigakaka. Sigma Man at Yutako Kasumi. Sigma Man, I'm not coming home tonight. Yutako Kasumi. Chapter 29. A Real Sigma Man Bonus. Lynn's Familia Harem Chat Group. Sigma Man. Image. Lynn snapped a few pictures of the scenery outside the school bus window with his phone. Desolate streets, abandoned cars, blood splattered everywhere, and grotesque-looking undead rushing toward the bus at the slightest noise. Yutako Kasumi. Main world. Utaha clicked on the images, which looked like something straight out of a zombie apocalypse movie. A new zombie film release. She couldn't help but wonder. Was Lynn inviting her to go see a movie together? But before she could get too excited, reality set in. Sigma Man, I'm in another world. Just recruited 2 fresh new Familia members. Sigma Man, lappillowmassage.jpg, Yutako Kasumi. Utaha instinctively ignored the first message and clicked on the last image instead. Enemy spotted. That woman is a formidable rival. Gripping her phone tightly, Utaha stared at the image of Lynn, his head resting on a pair of plump thighs. Gone for just an afternoon, and he had already ended up who knows where, recruiting new members? And on his very first day as a Familia leader, he was already lying on another woman's lap? Yutako Kasumi. So, this is why you're not coming back tonight. Utaha bit her lip. Was he planning to spend the night with that woman? The thought left her feeling a little empty inside. From a moment she became part of Lynn's Familia, she knew this would happen. Lynn had never hidden his intention. She was always upfront about being a man destined to have a harem. Even the name of their chat group made it blatantly obvious. And she had accepted that. She knew a man like him would naturally attract women. Hadn't she, too, fallen for him in just a few days? She had never felt this way before. But still, she was here first. Utaha bit down on her lip, then snapped a picture of her own legs and uploaded it to the chat. Yutako Kasumi. Blackstockings.jpg. Yutako Kasumi. Do they look good? Sigma Man. Thumbs up. Yutako Kasumi. Come back tonight, and you can use them however you like. A mere lap pillow? She could do that too. At the same time, Yatsuya Miko peeked at her phone screen, her eyes widening. Senpai, you're so bold. Ding. Another message notification popped up in the chat. Quickly, Miko checked the screen. Sigma Man, too bad. I need to establish a temporary base in this world tonight, so it'll be easier for you all to level up when you get here. Amazing. Seeing Lynn's response, Miko gasped in admiration. To turn down such a tempting offer. So that's what it means to be a real Sigma. Not swayed by beauty, wholly focused on the greater goal in Sama, is truly a man destined for greatness. Meanwhile, Utaha sat frozen, staring at her screen in disbelief. Rejected? Did she lose her charm? No. Lynn is just prioritizing the Familia's growth. Yeah, that's it. She clenched her fist in realization. Even though he was their master, he still went through the trouble of crossing worlds just to secure a safe training ground for them. Crossing worlds must be exhausting. Utaha suddenly had an epiphany. That's why he had no choice but to rest on that woman's lap. As for the other details about the zombie-infested world, they had long since been pushed to the back of her mind. Zombie world. Lynn put his phone down and relaxed, enjoying Saeko Busujima's soothing massage. Chatting in the group had been a way to confirm they could still communicate across worlds. It was also to let Utaha know he wouldn't be back tonight, so she wouldn't worry. As for her black stockings, she was already his. He could enjoy them whenever he wanted. Suddenly the bus screeched to a sudden halt, jolting everyone inside. With his head resting on Saeko's thighs, Lynn was treated to a delightful visual experience. What happened? The abrupt stop made Takagi Saya a little nervous. It seems the road ahead is blocked, Shizuka Mieruko muttered, troubled. Everyone turned to look ahead. The road was jam-packed with abandoned cars. It looked like this place had been a traffic bottleneck when the zombie outbreak hit. With no way forward, the bus was effectively stuck. Seems like we'll have to continue on foot from here, Saeko sighed. Her sword skills were sharp, but cutting through obstacles wouldn't clear a path for them. Even Shizuka's healing demon ability was useless in this situation. Technically, with their enhanced lower-level demon strength, they could push the cars aside, but it would take way too long. Nobody objected to walking, but Lynn simply said, "No need. Just charge through." Rei Miyamoto and Saya Takagi were stunned. Charge through. Looking at the sea of abandoned vehicles, they were completely lost. But Saeko didn't even waver. If her master said to charge, then they would charge. Yahoo! Even Shizuka got excited. Bumper cars, let's go. She restarted the bus's engine, revving it up with enthusiasm. Wait. Rei panicked, trying to protest. But before she could finish her sentence, the bus launched forward. They're crazy. Rei and Saya instinctively shut their eyes, raising their arms to shield themselves. Snap! Lynn casually snapped his fingers. A black magic circle enveloped the moving bus. A half-dome-shaped barrier of dark energy surrounded them completely. Boom! The bus slammed straight into the first obstacle with a thunderous crash. But thanks to the protective shield, there wasn't a single dent or jolt from the impact. After a long pause, Rei finally opened her eyes, only to see the bus effortlessly plowing through the vehicles ahead. She was dumbfounded. After a few seconds, she sighed, mixed with envy and awe. Supernatural abilities really don't play fair. With that little detour settled, the bus continued on its path. By nightfall, they finally reached Rika Minami's house. Lynn took a quick look at the spacious home and nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. This should work as a temporary base for the Familia. After scanning the place with his magic to confirm there were no undead inside, he gave instructions. Shizuka, take the others and get the place in order. Saeko, come with me, we'll clear out the surrounding zombies. Yes, Master. X2. Chapter 30. I need a deeper feel. Bang! Under the moonlit streets. With one final slash, Saeko Busujima severed the head of the last zombie in the area. Only then did her heavy breathing gradually calm down. She wiped her thigh, her face flushed with a dazed expression. My body, it's all sticky now. Leaning against a nearby wall, Lynn quietly watched her solo performance unfold. That was truly a beautiful slaughter. He clapped his hands, offering his approval. Saeko lowered her head slightly and murmured, "Forgive me, Master, for letting you witness such an unsightly side of me. No need to apologize. I actually like seeing you like this." Lynn looked happy as he was thinking. She is practically born for battle and leveling up. This is exactly the kind of talent my Familia needed. And with the presence of bloodlust, Seiko's growth rate would be off the charts. Her potential far exceeded that of an ordinary recruit. She was an absolute gem. Seiko's eyes suddenly became misty. The unease in her heart had completely dissipated. Master said he liked her true self. A rush of excitement flooded her body, causing an involuntary tremor. She barely managed to suppress a gasp. Let's go. Time to update your fauna. Lynn was eager to see Seiko's new stats. He was curious just how far could someone with bloodlust progress in a single night? Why, yes. Seiko's voice wavered slightly as she fought to steady her trembling body, following closely behind Lynn. Rika Minami's residence. When Lynn and Seiko returned to the living room, they found Rei Miyamoto and Saya Takagi in the kitchen, taking inventory of supplies while preparing dinner. The two girls knew their current position in the group well. When it came to fighting the undead, they were no match for Lynn, Seiko, and the others with supernatural abilities. So, they focused on logistics instead. At the very least, they wanted to be useful. If they were nothing more than freeloaders enjoying protection without contributing, then not only would their conscience weigh on them, but they knew they'd eventually be abandoned. Right now, Lynn's team was the safest place in the world for them. They had no intention of leaving. Seeing their diligence, a satisfied look flashed across Seiko's eyes. Even though she had become a devil, she was not heartless. She got along well with Rei and didn't want to see her struggling alone in this world. That said, if they weren't willing to adapt, she wouldn't plead their case with Lynn either. She was now his servant. Her loyalty belonged to her master. This arrangement was fine. Providing logistical support made them useful to the Familia. If Lynn chose to bring them in as familiars, they might even become devils like her, gaining supernatural strength. And if that didn't happen, at the very least, they could help ease their master's loneliness. With that thought, Seiko started mapping out potential roles for Rei and Saya in the Familia. Second floor, in a clean and used bedroom, Seiko skillfully removed her school uniform, leaving only her undergarments. Forgive me, master. I must have worked up quite the sweat earlier. I might not smell pleasant, and perhaps it wasn't just sweat. It's fine. This won't take long anyway. Hearing that, Seiko let out a breath of relief. As long as he didn't mind. She lay face down on the bed, unfastening her bra strap, exposing her smooth, bare back. Lynn pricked his finger, letting a single drop of blood fall onto her skin. A ripple spread outward, revealing her fauna. Seiko Busujima. Rank, low-class devil. Race, devil. Master, Lynn Valifer. Stats, strength, I0, E435. Agility, I0, G289. Endurance, I0, F306. Magic, I0, E411. Innate abilities, Bloodlust, details omitted, and Blade Demon, details omitted. Her growth was insanely fast. In just half a day, she had completely surpassed Utaha, who had been with him from the start. At this rate, Seiko might be the first in the Familia to level up. Not just that her stats might even exceed S rank, reaching SS or even SSS levels. Seiko, I have a feeling you'll be the first among the Familia to advance. Lynn copied down her updated stats. Really? Seiko's eyes widened in surprise. She eagerly took the paper with her stats, completely forgetting to fix her clothes. My highest attribute reached E rank already. She could feel a tangible improvement in her physical abilities after the update. This level of growth in just one day is beyond what most people could ever achieve. Lynn gave her some perspective as she had no benchmark for comparison. Hearing that, Seiko nodded. If Master said it was good, then it must be good. Then, Lynn mentioned Utaha's first fauna update for comparison. I see. So Utaha-senpai only gained around 100 points her first time? Now she truly understood just how terrifying her growth rate was. A quick calculation showed her total stat increase was around 1,500 points 10 times that of her senpai. Seiko's gaze flickered toward Bloodlust. So this is why. Her expression turned complex. She had once tried to suppress this part of herself. Yet now, As a familiar of Lynn, that very trait had become her greatest strength. Even better, she could finally embrace it. And all of this was thanks to Master. Her expression turned resolute, confidence filling her heart. She reached out, gently grasping Lynn's strong hand. Locking eyes with him, she spoke seriously. Master, I will become the sharpest blade in your arsenal. She guided his hand forward, past the thin fabric of her undergarments, pressing it against her chest right over her racing heart. Can you feel my determination? Lynn gave a firm squeeze. Seiko's breathing hitched, her face turning crimson as she gazed into his eyes. I think I need a deeper feel. Lynn's expression was solemn. Seiko's chest rose and fell sharply. She did not refuse. From the moment she became his familiar, she belonged to him. Seiko is still a bit dirty. Please, allow me to... Chapter 31, Becoming the Sheath. Before becoming Lynn's sword, Seiko Busujima decided she should first become his sheath. But before the sword can rest, it needs to be properly maintained. Seiko's eyes were filled with focus. Cleaning came first, then sharpening it again. Anyone who has used this sword knows that if you want it to last, it needs frequent honing. Seiko had some knowledge of this, and finally, she had the chance to put it into practice. Phew! Sharpening the blade was an exhausting task. Thankfully, the preparation was already done. Seiko's long, silky purple hair lay messily across the bed. She turned her head to the side, unable to meet Lynn's gaze. Her mind was blank. The newly forged sheath was still a bit tight. It would take time to break in and take the shape of the sword. One time wasn't enough, of course, so outside the door, Rei Miyamoto's hand, raised to knock, froze in midair. She had come to call them down for dinner, only to stumble upon an important ceremony of the blade being sheathed. Her skin flushed pink in an instant after hearing the sounds. It couldn't be mistaken. She wanted to pretend she hadn't noticed and quietly leave, but her feet refused to move as if nailed to the floor. As time passed, Rei's breathing grew heavier. After a long moment, she hastily adjusted herself and rushed away. Downstairs, Sayatakagi gave Rei a suspicious look as she saw her come down, her face still red. What took you so long? And nothing. Rei averted her eyes and quickly said, You must be hungry. Let's just eat first. What about the others? Saya frowned slightly, feeling it wasn't right for just the two of them to eat. Shizuka-sensei fell asleep in the bath. And what about Seiko-senpai and Lin-senpai? They had learned Lin's name from Shizuka earlier. They're having a deep discussion about swords. Really into it. I doubt they'll be coming down anytime soon. Rei awkwardly explained. Is that so? Saya felt something was off. The next morning, as the first rays of light filtered through the curtains of the apocalyptic world, Lin opened his eyes to see Seiko curled up in his arms. He had seen her in the throes of bloodlust, yet now, her peaceful sleeping face created a stark contrast. No matter how much she enjoyed the thrill of battle, in the end, she was still a woman. Master, as if sensing his gaze, Seiko murmured softly. Lin ran his fingers through her silky hair, not in a hurry to get up. Reaching for his phone, he opened line. The night before, every half hour, Utaha Kasimigakaka had pinged him in the group chat. At the time, though, he had been occupied with the sheath ceremony and didn't have time to respond. Sigma Man at Yutako Kasumi. Help me tell Natsuki-chan I'll be absent today. Utaha, who had barely slept all night waiting for his reply, felt her heart turn cold. Silence the whole night, as if her messages had been lost in the abyss. And now, first thing in the morning, he asked her to take care of something for him. The reason was obvious. Utaha's grip on her phone tightened, her chest tightening with frustration. She took a deep breath to calm herself. Then, with rapid-fire speed, she replied, Yutako Kasumi, face with symbols on mouth. Lin chuckled lightly and let it be. Main world. With dark circles under her eyes, Utaha stomped her way to school, muttering under her breath. Cheating cat. Shameless woman. I was first. Take a day off? Yeah, right. Shuchiin Academy, faculty office. That's all, Ms. Natsuki. Got it. Minamiya Natsuki approved Lynn's leave without question. Leaving the office, Utaha slumped in defeat. So spineless. She cursed herself. Then she opened her shopping app and typed, "Bunny girl outfit. War. This is a woman's war." Her eyes burned with determination as she placed an order for a particularly daring outfit. "You started this. This time, I'll let you take the lead." Utaha bit her lip, her voice filled with the sorrow of a so-called losing heroine. "At the very least, I'll be second." "Yeah, just the two of you." Shizuka Mieruko yawned as she came downstairs, wearing nothing but a thin dress shirt. Rei and Saya, sitting on the couch, gawked at her appearance. Saya turned crimson, stammering, "T. Shizuka tilted her head in confusion. Looking down, she finally realized and knocked her head lightly. Oh well, this was the only thing that fit from last night. By the way, where are Seeko and Master? Rei flinched at how naturally Shizuka called Lynn Master. And Seeko, too? Rei blushed even harder before hurriedly saying, "They're probably still sleeping. They went to bed really late." The more she spoke, the quieter her voice became. Oblivious to their reactions, Shizuka cheerfully made her way to Seiko's room. Wait. Rei opened her mouth, hesitating. Wouldn't it be better not to disturb them right now? Slide. Shizuka swung the door open without hesitation. "Seiko, the sun's already up." Her words cut off abruptly. She blinked at the sight before her. Seiko, caught in the act, raised her head and wiped her lips before offering a soft, mischievous smile. "Shizuka-sensei, you came at the perfect time." Seiko extended an invitation. Chapter 32, Apocalypse World Familia Base. That day, the midday sun was blindingly bright. Lynn walked downstairs feeling completely refreshed. Shizuka's devil transformation was strong, but he still had the upper hand, and he even used her own ability, Milk Mode, against her. Even though it was 2 versus 1, he showed them why he was their master. Of course, today's focus was Shizuka. Having a harem is absolutely amazing, Lynn thought, enjoying the best time of his life since transmigrating. In the living room, Miyamoto Rei and Takagi Saya exchanged odd glances when they saw Lynn. Their cheeks were flushed, and they avoided making eye contact. Shizuka left the door open, so the sounds were too loud to ignore. As the afternoon approached, around 3 p.m., Lynn returned to the main world and used the world anchor from his devil's contract to establish a passageway to the Apocalypse world inside the Supernatural Research Club's room. Of course, this passage could only be activated with Lynn's permission. Under normal circumstances, it just looked like a decorative door. Even if someone outside his peerage, Familia, saw it, they wouldn't think anything was strange. Even if they tried walking through, they'd just appear on the other side of the room instead of actually traveling between worlds. Once the setup was complete, Lynn had tagged all the club members in their group chat, telling them to meet at the Supernatural Research Club room after class. After that, he teleported to the shopping district, bought 2 smartphones, and registered 2 new numbers. These were for Seeko and Shizuka, so they could join the Familia chat group and stay in touch more easily. By the time he returned to the club room, Kusumigakaka Utaha and Yatsuya Miko were already there. Utaha looked at him with a wounded expression. "Oh, you actually decided to come back." Lynn scratched his chin and replied, "Actually, I'm staying in that new world again tonight." Utaha's face stiffened. She opened her mouth to say something, but then, like a deflated balloon, she lost all color. "Utaha-senpai, get a hold of yourself." Miko shook her in a panic, afraid something was seriously wrong. "By the way, Miko, you should let your family know that you'll be staying over there for a while, too," Lynn said while looking at Utaha. "Huh?" Miko froze. Meanwhile, Utaha, who had just been depressed, instantly lit up again, fully revived. So, they were all going to be staying in that world together? As long as she wasn't too far away from Lynn, that was fine. Utaha clenched her fist, her eyes burning with determination. She absolutely wouldn't let that sneaky cat get too far ahead. Lynn had arranged a training plan for them. At 3 p.m., they'd head to the Apocalypse world, then spend the entire night fighting zombies. Once they got tired, they'd rest there and return to the main world in the morning, arriving directly at school in time for class. Lynn mainly wanted to prevent them from falling too far behind Saeko. Miko was fine, but Utaha's personality was more competitive. That said, some differences couldn't be overcome by sheer effort alone. At the very least, he wanted to make sure Utaha didn't fall too far behind before she came to terms with it. Besides, with Shizuka the ultimate support around, leveling up his Familia was going to be easy. During his incredible experience with her, yesterday after hours of trying things for the first time, Lynn had, by chance, already figured out how to make use of Shizuka's abilities. Mainly her incredible milk output. After tasting half of it himself, he confirmed its miraculous effects. Not only was it deliciously sweet, but its recovery boost was insane. Because of it, he could go all day without sleeping. The remaining half, he planned to save it for when Utaha and Miko ran out of stamina while fighting monsters. Just one sip, and they'd be back to full power. Of course, this couldn't be overused. Their bodies wouldn't get tired, but their minds still would. Once per day should be enough. After Miko explained things to her mother and got permission to stay over at a friend's house for a few days, Lynn led them to the dimensional gate marked as Apocalypse World. Utaha and Miko curiously examined the portal. Hearing Lynn talk about another world in their group chat hadn't really felt real before. Especially for Utaha, had been too focused on competing with other girls and hadn't paid much attention. But now, the realization that they were about to cross into another world made her nervous and excited. A nice guy, huh? From the photos Lynn had shared, it didn't seem like a pleasant world. But still, their first ever interdimensional trip was about to begin. You two ready? Utaha and Miko took a deep breath, their expressions turning serious. Ready, X2. A flash of white light filled the supernatural research club room. Apocalypse World. White light flickered in the living room. Miyamoto Rei and Takagi Saya exchanged a glance, still unable to process what they were witnessing. Earlier, when Lynn left, his sudden disappearance had already stunned them. And now, seeing him return in the same way, but with two new girls, was even more shocking. They were told that Lynn could travel between worlds. Their minds raced. If he could move between worlds, did that mean he wasn't originally from theirs? Could it be that all the supernatural powers they'd seen so far came from Lynn? After all, aside from him, Saeko, and Shizuka, there was no trace of supernatural abilities in this world. At that moment, they felt as if they had discovered the truth. No wonder Saeko and Shizuka treated Lynn with such respect, and even called him master. It all made sense now. This realization led them to another thought back at their academy. Lynn wasn't wearing their school uniform. That only added to the credibility of their theory. If Lynn really was the source of their powers, did that mean they could obtain power too? The more they thought about it, the more their gazes toward Lynn burned with intensity. They wanted that power, even if it meant calling him master as well. As the white light faded, Utaha and Miko curiously looked around. Doesn't seem all that special. Welcome to the Apocalypse World Familia base. Saeko greeted them warmly. Apocalypse World, a name Lynn had coined to represent this world. Saeko found it quite fitting. Hearing the voice, Utaha's eyes naturally fell on Saeko, the sneaky cat scent. She scanned the four girls in the room, her eye twitching. Did everyone in this world have insane harmonies? They even rivaled Rias and Aquino. Damn it. Utaha, once again, lost to reality. The world is truly unfair. She spiraled into self-doubt. Miko quickly introduced herself. Yatsuya Miko. Just call me Miko. I only joined recently, so I'm not really a senpai. Utaha collected herself and added, Kasumiga Kaka Utaha. You can call me Utaha. Busujima Saeko. Just Saeko is fine. Shizuka is my name. Introductions finished, they were all somewhat acquainted now. Utaha and Miko quickly realized only Saeko and Shizuka were official Familia, peerage members. The other two? Temporary extras? But probably not for long. The way they looked at Lynn practically screamed, "Please make us yours." Utaha smirked. TCH, typical. Lynn clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. All right, let's get started. The best way to bond? Fight together. Time to grind some EXP.